So we're going to go from uproarious laughter to deep relaxation now with Zoe. Zoe Kanat is an accredited meditation and mindfulness educator, psychotherapist, and counsellor. Zoe facilitates meditation classes and workshops in various studios, corporate organisations, and schools around Melbourne and privately. She's also deeply passionate about the art of relaxation and the ancient meditation practice of Yoga Nidra. She's a certified Yoga Nidra guide, specifically in the Daring to Rest program, developed by teacher and author Karen Brody. And in 2019, Zoe joined the board of Meditation Australia. So today, Zoe will explore Yoga Nidra with us and guide us through a practice for deep rest and healing. So really looking forward to that. So if you'd like to just mute yourselves once again, if you're not already muted, I will now pass over to Zoe. Thanks, Zoe.
Thanks, Lisa. And I will unmute myself. So welcome. That was awesome. I dropped in just towards the end and I'm so glad I did. I just like, so I just want to look at everybody for a little moment just to connect with you all. Because it's a funny thing, you know, and I know that you all know what it's like just to be in this forum and feeling this possible disconnect or connect, however it goes for you. And so I always really find it important to kind of, and because there's 3 pages, you know, just looking at everybody and seeing everyone. So lovely to see all of you. And I was just so inspired by Ian and Jamie, and very much looking forward to sharing with you. Now, full disclosure, I had a late night last night for the first time in such a long time. I'm usually in bed asleep by 10 o'clock, and I happened to spend some time with friends, which was so beautiful and nourishing and foreign to do. So yeah. Anyway, here we go. So Yoga Nidra. I'm really wanting, there's so much to say about Yoga Nidra, and we could talk for days, and as we can with all practices and modalities. And so because of the theme of today's session, all about self-care and nurturing, I wanted to talk about the nurturing qualities of Yoga Nidra and this feminine aspect that is being revealed to me more and more. So what I'm going to do, just to let you know, I'm going to share a little bit about my journey with Yoga Nidra and how I met it, and then talk about these qualities, these 3 different qualities that really reveal that Yoga Nidra is so much more than just a technique. And then I'm going to guide you into a practice that will be super nurturing, super restorative and relaxing. So I'll give you a moment or two before we go into the practice to set yourself up and get ready. But I don't want you to skimp on anything. So you're so welcome to lie down. Obviously, that's the position that we practice Yoga Nidra in, but you can also sit up, lie on your side, rest up against a wall. There's many different options to how we practice. So my story, and the reason why I want to share it with you, can you hear me properly? I just want to make sure. Yes, great, awesome. Okay, so the reason why I want to share my story is because it's not special and it's not unique, but I feel like it's something to share because it's relatable. I believe that our stories of coming to a spiritual practice and then why we as teachers share it, a shared experience. And so my story could be your story and your story could be my story. It's really just swapping in the details and swapping out the details. And so, yeah, so two things happened to me about 20 or so years ago. The first thing was that I had my children. I had two children. They're now 22 and 19, and gave birth to these beautiful babies. But I experienced and suffered horribly, debilitatingly from postnatal depression. But these two experiences then led me, and if they didn't occur, I would never have discovered Yoga Nidra. So out of this darkness came the light. And I feel at this stage, it might change, but my purpose was really revealed to me. This ultimate practice of non-doing. And so back then, when my kids were really still quite young, I attended my first meditation retreat with Melbourne Insight teacher Jess Hewen, the beautiful Jess Hewen, if any of you know her. And at the time, I was beyond exhausted. I was absolutely finished. And I was so excited to be going to this retreat where I was going to rest and meditate and all these wonderful things that I had conjured up in my mind. And the first few days, to my surprise, were excruciating, absolutely excruciating. Not only was I tired, but I just wasn't used to sitting for hours on end. And my body was screaming at me to the point where I actually was dreading each sit. It came to this point where I was so... I was really dreading these sits. And then I realized that Jess was encouraging us to lie down for the meditations. But of course, at that time, in my mind, that wasn't meditating, that was cheating, and it was a sign of weakness. And it wasn't meditating properly. And so, as you can imagine, my mind was full of these stories about what a good meditator was. And then one afternoon, Jess offered a meditation, a Yoga Nidra, a guided Yoga Nidra, but she didn't give it a name. And so I had no idea what it was. But all I knew was that this time we all had to lie down. It was like, this is part of the practice. So I lay down. And I think for the very first time as a meditation practice, I dropped in so deeply. And I'm not sure if I fell asleep. I probably did for a period of the practice. But I woke up towards the end. So obviously there was a part of me that was still awake. And I came back from this state. I returned back from this state feeling actually rested and energized at the same time. And I'd never really experienced that, or not for a very long time. And so that sort of sparked my interest. I became really intrigued and curious with this practice that asked me to do nothing, really to relax in order to enter this place that we call Yoga Nidra, this state that I'll go into a little bit more in a moment. And so between then and now, pretty much as the universe has it, all my teachers have encouraged me to lie down for meditation in all different traditions. And most of those teachers happen to be female, not all. And so finally, I dropped this story that I was lazy and that I'm not meditating properly. And so this practice hasn't only held and supported me and nurtured me through so many difficult and confronting times, and especially right now, over the last 2 years. I don't know what I would have done without it, but it's really changed my life. And it's changed my life in not only this very deep, finding this deep stillness that Ian talked about, but also in quite an expansive and invigorating way. So I just wanted to acknowledge and share with you my teachers so far, Yoga Nidra teachers. So I've studied and trained with as a Yoga Nidra guide, and now I'm certified as a facilitator and a mentor with Karen Brody in her program Daring to Rest. I've studied with Jana Roma. She teaches Astro Nidra, which is a combination of principles of astrology combined with Yoga Nidra. Really amazing. And then with Kamini Desai and John Vossler from the Integrative Amrit method. And currently engaging and studying with Tracy Stanley, author of Radiant Rest. And so the eternal student, and as Craig spoke of before, you know, this constant revealing of the depth of this practice. So Yoga Nidra as a self-care tool has been revealed as so much more than a meditation technique. And so some of the ways in which it is defined or called directly in yoga is yogic sleep, radiant rest, sleep of the yogi, peace beyond words. But the thing is that no matter how hard we try and describe and examine this practice, it's always best to have had the experience yourself. I think not only until you have the experience and come back and sort of say, where did I go? I went to this place that I have no words for, but it's deeply in the cells of my body. That's where we really get to understand. But of course, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, knowledge is like the precursor to experience. So to have the knowledge and the background and to learn more and more is always deepens the experience as well. So other ways of describing this practice has been a stateless state, and the practice of disillusion where there are no words. And so before I get into a little bit of talking about these qualities, these nurturing feminine qualities of Yoga Nidra, I just wanted to read to you some of the descriptions and definitions that I've come across that I find really valuable of this practice. So Tracy Stanley describes it as if you have ever floated in a sea of stars or felt that you have peered through a wormhole into another dimension, then you know what I mean. And I just, that idea of floating in stars, in a sea of stars, is pretty amazing to me. Something I would love to do. And then Jana Roma describes it as a practice of self-love where the ancient meets the quantum. And Julie Lusk, another wonderful teacher who wrote Yoga Nidra of Complete Relaxation and Stress Relief, describes it this way. She says, yogic sleep goes far beyond deep relaxation to a place of natural peace and quiet that is tremendously healing. The first stage of relaxation brings about a calm mind while the body feels heavy and deeply relaxed. An inner stillness is also felt during the second stage. As relaxation progresses, the heaviness lifts and a light, buoyant feeling arises. It is somewhat like lingering in the interval between being awake and being asleep. And this is exactly where we go in the states of consciousness, this place well beyond being awake and deep sleep to this fourth place that I'll speak of a little later on. Well, I'll speak of now, actually. We'll get there in a minute. So just before we go into the practice, I want to explore these three states. But before I do that, actually, I might just check in with everybody and ask if anybody has anything to share or to ask. I'd love to know how many of you practice Yoga Nidra, maybe just show of hands, virtual hands, or yeah, great. Awesome. And a guide Yoga Nidra? Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you maybe a bit later on, or just to share some of your experiences or of what I'm about to speak of now. So I want to look at these three qualities that I find really interesting about Yoga Nidra. So not only is Yoga Nidra a practice that we engage with, but it's a state of consciousness, this state of expansion that I touched on before. And then the technique or the practice. And then it was only a little while ago that I heard the story of the goddess of Yoga Nidra, which I'll share with you in a moment. So Yoga Nidra as a state of consciousness, there is an essay written by Jason Birch and Jacqueline Hargraves called Yoga Nidra, An Understanding of the History and Context. And I highly, highly recommend it. I'll pop it in the chat later on. If you're a Yoga Nidra junkie or teacher, it's quite amazing. It goes into great detail of just understanding the history. And so this state, it wasn't until between the 11th and 12th centuries that we see the term Yoga Nidra in yoga texts referred to as a practice. And it, although not described as the practice that we know of today, but as a means to liberation or samadhi. And then later on, it was described more elaborately in a text, the Yoga Theravali, between the 13th and the 14th century text, teaching Hatha and Raja Yoga. And so there's this technique of non-doing that we apply to arrive or to uncover this state, which is said to be beyond the usual three states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And then we find ourselves in Turiya, or translated directly as the fourth state, another word for samadhi. So this liberation. And I think as Ian spoke of, arriving at this stillness point. And as Ian was talking, I was thinking it's not a linear process or practice. It's something that we often in Yoga Nidra, we go in and out of this state. And I've heard people talk a lot about how, they might come to a part of the practice where something triggers their mind and they come out of it. And this is just like what Ian was talking about, our practice, these techniques that we use to arrive at this state, whether it's stillness and It's not like we go from A to B in one line. It's this in and out of that we touch into, and we go between these veils. And I don't think that one is better than the other. It's just this beautiful dance between, and these arrivings and awakenings of one and the other, and one kind of supports the other. The technique supports the state, and then the state, you know, supports this technique that we know of. And then we come to the technique itself, this other quality, this practice of Yoga Nidra, where we journey through the koshas, these layers of our being, from, as you would know if you're a practitioner or a teacher, from the most gross aspect of ourselves, the flesh and the bones and the blood and this physical part of ourselves, to the more subtle, this energetic, a mental, emotional part of ourselves. We go through these layers, and again, it's not linear, but slowly, we literally fall asleep. These layers of our being fall asleep until we reveal, or it leads us back to the light of our true self, or our essential self. And there's this beautiful description in Tracy's book where she talks about the Russian dolls, you know, those dolls that there's like a tiny little one and then there's layers, and the tiny little one is like this, the light of our true self, our essential self. And then over time we have these layers that go on top of the self until sometimes we can't see it. And so in Yoga Nidra, it's like we open up layer by layer. And then in addition to the state of meditation, we find in the 20th century, early to mid 20th century, the systemization of various yoga techniques, both from modern and medieval traditions. And this goes into a lot of detail about this in the Birch and Hargrave's article, arriving at this practice or this technique. So not only do we experience profound states of deep rest and relaxation, but as I've said, the practice returns us back to the same brainwave states during childhood development, where the subconscious mind was originally programmed, and where we pick up many of our limiting beliefs that still often hold us back today. And the practice where we're placed in, we can reprogram and replace these limiting beliefs with liberating beliefs and access this most authentic part of ourselves. So this is the beauty of the technique. And then it's done in the most supportive, most effortless way, where we're held in, often it's referred to as a Yoga Nidra nest or Yoga Nidra cave. So we create this space that's so safe and nurturing that it's almost impossible not to drop in to that state. And time again, I've seen it through students and people practicing this state where people have only practiced once or twice, and they're just like, wow, what just happened? And I think there are so many stories of that experience, and mine being one of them. So now we finally come to the third quality, this feminine principle, this nurturing principle of Yoga Nidra, and that's the goddess Yoga Nidra herself. So some of the earliest known uses of the term Yoga Nidra was found in around 300 BCE as the name of the goddess. So I want to share the story of the goddess briefly before we go into the practice. Okay, so the story describes how Brahma, the creator, was sitting on this beautiful lotus growing out of the navel of Vishnu, the preserver or the protector. And Vishnu was in a deep, dreamless cosmic sleep, or cosmic yoga nidra, in the transition between the cycles of creation and destruction. And I just heard another little part of the story to add to this. So meanwhile, Brahma was attacked by two demons, and these demons were said to have been growing out of Vishnu's ears as wax, and they turned into demons. And the translation of these demons, their names were too much and never enough. And Brahma was desperately needing help, but Vishnu was in such a deep sleep filled with inertia that he wasn't responsive to Brahma's cries. And so no matter what he did, he couldn't wake Vishnu. So he decided that he needed to call on the goddess Yoga Nidra, who had taken her seat within Vishnu to support his deep cosmic meditative sleep. And so to call on Yoga Nidra, Brahma began to sing her praises. And he sung her virtues, her beautiful virtues of cooling, nurturing, moonlight qualities over and over and over again until she appeared. She became manifest. And she answered Brahma's prayers and brought Vishnu out of his cosmic sleep, asked him to slay the two demons, and used her powers to confuse the minds of the demons so Vishnu could destroy them. And so in this story, the goddess's power is so supreme that even the most powerful gods must depend on her grace. And when I heard this story, it just made so much sense. It was like another piece of the puzzle to this practice that, to me, is like the Divine Mother coming to hold us so deeply that we feel so safe to drop in. And so, yeah, it's just so beautiful to hear this story. And the other thing that I wanted to share as well, I'm reading one of Swami Rama's books. What's it called? Something about traveling with the Himalayan masters, Swami Rama being the founder of the Himalayan Institute. And he tells this whole story, and it's never often revealed that these swamis had these feminine female teachers. And he tells this whole story about how there was this female swami who he found at nighttime going to this temple and doing this practice that he would spy on. And she finally found him and tried to shoo him away. And eventually she let him in and taught and shared with him what she was doing, because she was said to not sleep. And she was practicing this practice of Yoga Nidra. So one of his, founding teachers or earliest teachers was this female Swami that has no name, of course, but yeah, it is a very beautiful feminine practice. So I would love to share this practice with you now. And so I'll give you a few moments to set yourself up. And so my preferred position is to lie down in Shavasana, but with heaps and heaps of props to support me. So blanket to be warm, because your body temperature obviously you get colder and it falls, and a pillow yeah, Grace is popping on her headphones. If you have headphones nearby, it's always nice to just have the sound close to your ears, less distraction. But of course, you can sit up, you can lean against a wall, you can lie on your side with pillows in between your legs. There's so many options. And sometimes I do the practice with music, but today I'm not going to, because we're about to be spoilt rotten with some beautiful sound healing, which I can't wait for. And what I'm also going to do in this particular practice is a little bit of a visualization at the beginning to support you to create an intention for this practice. And then as we move through the body rotation, we're going to plant this intention into the points as we move through the body. And as you may know, every word, every intention has a vibration, has a frequency, just like, you know, a word like doubt has a frequency and a vibration, and the word love has a different one. And so when we plant our intentions literally into the cells of our body, there becomes this flow that spreads throughout our whole being. So that's what we're going to do as part of the practice. Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody. Let's see. Yeah, done. Okay. So as you begin to get into the position that you have chosen, I like to say, please give yourself full permission to go at half pace and not to rush, as we're so used to doing, and to allow this process to take as long as needed. That you don't need to arrive anywhere quickly. That each little moment of this practice is to be treasured as a stepping stone, as a part of the whole experience. And then checking in with how you're lying or sitting, whatever it is that you're doing, and just asking yourself if this position is how you want to be for the next little while, and if not, just making any adjustments, moving your hips. You might want to stretch out your legs in a particular way. It was good to laugh before and get out a little bit of excess tension. But of course, when we go into these practices of deep relaxation, there can be a resistance, and that's completely fine and okay, just to allow whatever it is that comes up, and know that although we have an intention to be still, that if you need to move for any particular reason, that there is absolute permission to do so. So just acknowledging that we have arrived in this space to practice together this beautiful, nurturing, feminine practice in this container, in our nests and our individual Yoga Nidra caves or nests, that we have created for ourselves and together. And then slowly inviting yourself to let go of doing and thinking and come into a space of being and sensing. And we do that by beginning to withdraw into our bodies and start to visualize or see your body as it is now lying or sitting on the ground or whatever surface you're lying on, knowing that beneath that surface is the earth. And so feeling into the whole back plane of your body, from your heels along the calves, the back of your thighs and buttocks, your lower back, spine and torso, and the curve of your neck and the back of your head and the back of your arms, and just feeling the whole surface of your back body starting to allow the surface beneath you and the earth to hold you. So giving permission to let go into that support. Feeling the whole back body dropping a little deeper with every exhalation into the support beneath you. And you'll feel the sensation of the meeting of your body and the ground. Perhaps there's some tingling, slight vibration, pressure, heat or coolness. This meeting, this middle space between the earth and your body coming together. And then feeling the front plane of your body that is meeting the sky or the space above you. And you might feel the temperature of the air on your skin that's exposed, perhaps on your face. And then there's this space in between your back body and your front body. This internal landscape of your organs and bones, flesh. And as we begin the practice of Yoga Nidra, start to tune into your breath. To begin with, just watching and observing how you're breathing. And you might notice the feeling of the air against the nostrils as you breathe in along the passageways, the nasal passageways, and then down into your lungs and dissolving out into your body. And so spend the next few moments just watching and observing the body responding to the inflow and the outflow of your breath. Watching the navel as it rises up as you breathe in and falls back towards your spine as you breathe out. And now we're going to start to spend a little while just evening out the breath. So I'm not going to bring in any counting or just deepening the breath as much as you feel you would like to. And if it supports you to count in for 2 or 3 or 4, that's fine. But just evening out the inhale and the exhale. And breathing in, and if you feel to, you could breathe out for a few breaths, a few rounds through your mouth, either sighing it out or blowing out through your pursed lips like you're blowing through a straw. As you breathe in, bringing in a quality of receptivity, of receiving. And with the exhalation, a letting go, a softening, dropping into the support of the earth, Mother Nature herself. Three more breaths on your own like this. Evening out any bumps or lumps. And then consciously releasing the breath, giving up any effort of breathing and letting the body do its thing, letting the body breathe you. And this can sometimes be a bit hard to let go of even controlling our breath. I find it hard. So just permission for this to take a little while. And then as you do, release that grip of control of the breath, becoming more and more effortless. I invite you to slowly scan from the soles of your feet all the way up through the body, going slowly and gently. And as you do, noticing any areas of gripping or holding, any areas of tension, and not needing to do anything or make anything happen, just noticing, traveling slowly through the body, arriving at the crown of your head. And then when you've arrived there, slowly move down through the body. Feeling in, letting go of any story or thinking, just feeling into the body. Noticing where there's any holding, any resistance. No judgment. Just exploring. When you reach down to the soles of your feet, return back up one more time. And as you reach the crown of your head, slowly moving down again, just noticing and acknowledging any tension, just an acknowledgement. And then when you reach the toes and the soles of your feet, please guide your attention and awareness into your heart space, right in the center of your chest, behind your breastbone. And resting in this space, feeling into the heart center, this place where all your love and compassion grows and comes from. And ask yourself the question, what is the antidote? What is the opposite to that tension or resistance in the body? And just let whatever naturally, intuitively comes forth. It might come in a word, a color, a phrase, or just a feeling or a knowing. Intuitively, what is the antidote or the opposite to the resistance or the tension? What is it that you need? And just take a moment to remember that, whatever it is, whatever form it comes to you, knowing that whatever it is yours and is not wrong, is absolutely perfect for you. And then from the heart, slowly moving the light of your attention, this heart attention, into the space just in between your eyebrows, feeling the skin or the flesh of this space. The third eye center. And as you begin to rest your attention here, imagining all the skin and the muscles, the tiny little muscles on your face, to soften around your eyes and your cheeks, your forehead and your temples, even into your jaw. This quality from the heart, softening the whole face, no expression. And then dropping into the space in between the eyes with your antidote. No effort required, just this intuitive knowing that your antidote will drop into this space. As we'll now move around the body, touching into each point with this quality. Moving from the third eye to the throat center, the hollow of the throat, the right shoulder joint, right elbow joint, right wrist joint. Sensing and feeling this heart quality in the tip of your right thumb, the tip of your index finger, Tip of your middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger. Middle of your wrist joint, middle of your elbow joint, middle of your shoulder joint, throat center, left shoulder joint, left elbow joint, left wrist joint, the tip of your left thumb, tip of your left index finger, tip of the middle finger, tip of your ring finger, tip of your little finger, center of your left wrist joint, left elbow joint, left shoulder joint, heart center, right side of your chest, left side of your chest, heart center, navel center, your antidote into your right hip joint, right knee joint, right ankle joint, tip of your right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, and your little toe on the end of your right foot. Center of your right ankle joint. Center of your right knee joint. Right hip joint. Your navel center. And your left hip joint. Left knee joint. Left ankle joint. The tip of your left big toe. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. And your fifth toe. Center of your left ankle joint. Center of your left knee joint. Hip joint. Navel center. Ascending up to the heart center. Traveling up to the throat center. And back into the third eye, dropping in right into the midbrain, between your ears. And then sense and feel rivers of this antidote, this heart quality spreading throughout each point, flowing through your whole body now. Rivers and streams of this quality permeating your whole body. Traveling into the whole right side of your body. And the whole left side of your body. The front of your body. And the back. To the crown of your head. And the soles of your feet. Your whole body glowing and shining with this quality, emanating and permeating. And letting your whole body rest, bathing in this heart quality. This moonlight, nurturing, loving quality. Effortlessly resting. And then the invitation as we come to the end of this practice is to stay resting for a little bit longer, or slowly finding your breath and deepening your breath a little, breathing down into your toes and your fingers, waking up the body. You might like to stretch your feet out, your heels, taking some micro movements, waking up, drawing your knees up towards your chest, keeping your eyes closed and gently rolling over to one side or the other. And as you're resting here for the next little while, I just want to apologize to Lisa. We've gone a little bit over time. 1 minute. So, and Karen, if we need to move on, I hate to disturb. Hello.
Just thank you, Zoe, for sharing your story, for teaching us something about Yoga Nidra. And it was so interesting to learn more about it. Such a beautiful, healing and valuable practice. I love the words that you used, like Yoga Nidra nest and radiant rest. They really capture the essence of what it's about.
Yeah.
And the beautiful story of the goddess and the divine mother. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And for sharing this beautiful practice. I'm really glad we've got the recording that we can come back to.
Yeah.
And linger longer in.